Welcome to the Fintech Times News and Views podcast. Established in 2016, the Fintech Times is a global multimedia news outlet centered around the world's first leading fintech newspaper. We report on the latest and brightest ideas from the fintech world. Follow the conversation using hashtag TFD News and Views and follow us at the Fintech Times. Hello, and welcome back to the Fintech Times News and Views podcast. And today is a very special day because it is our 200th episode. What? We have been doing this podcast now 200 times, which is insane. But I'm here, of course, as ever, with the lovely Francis. Francis, how do you feel about hitting 200 episodes?
You know what? I never thought we'd make it, but we're here. Oh my God, it's incredible. It's just the most insane thing ever. What? No, it's crazy how time has just flown by. I remember doing the first one sort of at 50. I think because you
this
were doing it
podcast has
since day
been
one.
on quite an evolution for the past couple of years. It started off with a few other people, and then I joined it, and then it was just me on my own for a little while. As you can imagine, not a great podcast until I was like, "Hey guys, please, will you join the podcast with me?" To Francis and it was Tyler, wasn't it? Tyler, back when Tyler still worked here.
Tyler,
So it has been a journey, but we are here, episode 200. And crucially, Tom is not here. So
Shocking.
everyone needs to tell him off for missing such a glorious milestone in the News and Views podcast life. It's never going to happen again. 200 episodes and it will never happen again.
He should have been planning everything around this, but
yeah, but there we go. Off he is having a life. But anyway, back to what we're here to do, which is talk about fintech. So Francis, what is your article that you're going to be talking about today?
So the article I want to talk about today is Binance's latest Pix integration in Brazil.
Fantastic. And I'm going to be discussing new research from Payit by NatWest, which has found obstacles facing open banking and how it suggests we overcome them. But Francis, for the 200th time, why don't you kick us off?
Iconic, really. So yeah, my article today. So cryptocurrency is not unpopular in Brazil by any stretch. In fact, Brazil is the 6th largest crypto market in the world in terms of adoption. 17.5% of the population already owns some type of digital asset, according to AAA, the consultancy firm, and 42% of investors have already been exposed to digital assets. However, when it comes to real-world usage, I think this is the case, around the world, but in Brazil as well. The use cases haven't really been as apparent, despite the exposure and the interest in digital assets and crypto. And I mean, when you have such a successful payment system like Pix, I mean, the Brazil's Pix payment system has been like I say, such a resounding success in the country that it's no surprise that many consumers aren't really looking for alternative payment methods. And I feel like that is what crypto's selling point is in a lot of instances. Is people say, there is this investment value that you have, and then you spend it and it's all happy days, but there doesn't really seem to be that incentive. However, while Brazil may not necessarily, or the consumers in Brazil may not necessarily be looking for alternative payment methods, these methods have been provided to them in what I think is a great move by Binance. So as a result of the new integration, users will be able to make instant payments and transfers in reais, Brazil's national currency, using cryptocurrencies to any person or commercial establishment in the country. The value of the digital asset in the user's wallet is instantly converted into Brazilian reais, and transactions to any Pix enabled bank account or merchants are completed in seconds. So with over 174 million people and businesses already using Pix and around 5.6 billion transactions taking place per month, the new partnership will extend the accessibility of the service beyond fiat payments and enable more crypto users to use their digital assets in a real-world scenario. And what I really wanted to discuss with you today is, do you think we will see crypto's adoption increase in the country as a result of this? Because while I'm not sure it will necessarily increase as a payment method straight away, I think its exposure will certainly rise, and as a result, potentially the levels of digital asset investment too. And then, depending on what happens in other countries, if crypto is sort of seen as a major sort of payment method, we might see this, this cross-border sort of side to crypto that, has been spoken about before, but we're yet to see sort of really be adopted. So yeah, I wanted to get your views and see what you think.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting, and I'm always, whenever we kind of talk about Brazil and other sort of LATAM regions when it comes to cryptocurrency, I'm always really surprised as to how great their adoption is. And maybe I shouldn't be surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised even now, like how often we've talked about it. But for Brazil to be like the sixth largest market in cryptocurrency adoption in the world, to me, feels like really significant and really quite interesting. And I think with this sort of integration, I think I do think that we are going to see sort of uptake in exposure, like you were saying, in terms of crypto and like uses of cryptocurrency. I think I think I kind of agree with you, and I don't think it's going to happen overnight, and I don't think it's going to be right away. But considering how popular Pix is in Brazil and how many people use it as their preferred payment method, to be able to kind of integrate crypto within that and have that exposure to digital assets and their use cases of being a payment method, I think it's kind of just inevitable, right? That it's going to turn into quite a significant portion of sort of cryptocurrency usage in this way. And I think, it's really interesting to see it move forward like this and, really go down this kind of digital asset payment route in terms of, like combining it with like an instant payment system that's going to have the speed. It's got the accessibility. We don't need to worry about that. And then also in theory, it's kind of got this security and this understanding within the population that it is a safe payment method to use. So therefore, it makes sense that you're going to kind of use crypto as, a real hassle-free transaction that you can then just use in your everyday life. So it's really interesting. And I wonder how this is going to move for other markets. Like, is what's happening in Brazil going to kind of form a bit of a blueprint in other regions? Because I know, the kind of the use of crypto and digital assets within payments is something that comes up so often in so many different places, are sort of trying to crack that and sort of move that along in the growth. So I wonder if Brazil is really going to be a turning point in that, and whatever happens within the Brazilian market is going to get replicated in other markets. That'll be really interesting to see. Or is that something that it's going to be so unique to Brazil because of the ecosystem that they already have in terms of like digital payments and Pix and things like that. So I think it's a really interesting thing, and the problem is I am always still quite wary of crypto. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm still not there with crypto in other ways that people are, and I'm a bit on the fence about whether or not I would personally use it, and I haven't really in the past, and whether I would kind of go in on crypto as a payment method in the future, I don't know. But I think to be able to make it more accessible to different people, I think that's really key, and meeting the demands of sort of customers and consumers where they are and doing it in a way that makes sense for this local area, I think is really great. And I think it's really nice to see companies focusing on accessibility. Whether or not crypto is going to be the next big thing in terms of digital asset adoption and payments within the country, but it makes it more familiar, and that I think is going to be the key to growth for anything. It's making it familiar, making it feel like what it is and what you're doing. People don't like change, and people like what they know. So putting crypto into something that they know, I think it's gonna do it such a world of good.
100%. And I think, like you were saying, in terms of like looking at other markets, I think it really is going to need to take something similar to Pix. I think there needs to be sort of a almost a unanimous agreement. I know that it's not. I think it's 70 something percent prefer Pix, and there's still people that prefer using cash, and still people that prefer using cards. But I think in terms of when we're looking at this sort of eventual uptake of crypto as a real-time payment method, I think it's like you say, there needs to be this thing that people know and people are comfortable using, and I think that's where the integration needs to come in. I don't think it's worth, well, not that it's not worth, but I don't think we'll see as much popularity in just crypto as a standalone payment method. I think it really needs to be integrated into something. So for example, I think in India with their instant payment method, UPI, we have seen a lot of crypto adoption in India anyway. But I think if we see more like big names continue to integrate themselves within, or integrate, the payment methods within their offerings, I think that's where we'll really see like a big uptake in crypto in terms of the mainstream. Because as sort of the article says, Brazil is the sixth largest market, but in terms of day-to-day payments, admittedly, that is only one use case of a cryptocurrency, but nonetheless, it sort of pales in comparison to PIX. And I think that for the foreseeable future, at least, that's always going to be the case. I don't think it's ever going to really take over. But I might be wrong on that. It's hard to say how the sort of digital asset ecosystem will develop, given that a few years ago, I don't think anyone thought that crypto would reach the highs that it has already. So I think we'll just have to wait and see, really. But I think it is a really good move by Binance to sort of make accessibility something, a top priority in a already well-liked payment system. And I think it's a really good move going forward if that sort of thing is replicated in other markets. But yeah, with that, why don't we go to your article?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So basically, Payit, the open banking payment solution by banking group NatWest, has published new findings that reveal that almost half of British businesses are keen to integrate open banking into their operations due to the security and fraud prevention benefits that it has. So this new survey conducted by Censuswide found that 22% of businesses spend more than 6 hours per month managing and storing sensitive customer information, such as card details, which is kind of why they are moving towards these open banking solutions, hoping to be able to use this time to build and grow their business while keeping everything secure. So I think this is a really interesting survey because it kind of talks about all the benefits of open banking and how people are really keen to get into open banking. However, it also discusses sort of the hesitancy of businesses to adopt that open banking. So there's 28% of businesses claim to have not yet implemented it due to a lack of understanding. And this comes at a time when 67% of businesses have experienced issues when processing payments that disrupt their business operations. And 44% of businesses report inefficiencies that often leads to cash flow issues, preventing timely payments to suppliers and staff. So, obviously, there's a lot of issues that we know open banking can solve. Open banking has been around for such a long time now. It is so... I personally feel anyway that it is so sort of integrated within the financial world, even if you don't necessarily know about it. Like, I think there's a lot of solutions out there that are open banking that maybe people don't realize are open banking, but they hear the words open banking and immediately kind of shut down and get, I don't know what that means, so I don't use open banking. But, there's so much out there and it is so integrated. And it is, it is working. It is doing really well in terms of like providing that security, providing that fraud prevention, and providing that sort of speed and efficiency that a lot of businesses are trying to find. And I guess this kind of article is talking a lot about how, businesses kind of need to start implementing open banking if they haven't already. Otherwise, they're going to really feel the impact of their consumers and sort of how the consumers will just go somewhere else. Like, we all know how consumer loyalty and consumer demand really just kind of drive everything when it comes to businesses and, finances and everything like that. So by not using open banking to cater to their customers, they may find that they miss out on their custom. And it's kind of sort of as simple as that, really, especially when it comes to faster transaction times, streamlined experiences, all of that good stuff. Consumer trust is just so important to like really build your business, but it's also important for that technology adoption as well. So I kind of wanted to bring you in on this, Francis, and get your opinion on, I guess, the misunderstandings around open banking and how it can be helpful for businesses and kind of tackling that financial aspect, and whether, do we need to be doing more to boost the adoption of open banking, or just kind of let everyone muddle around as it go and let them realize that they're the ones that need to be doing something to help, optimize their efficiency and bring in their payment options and things like that. So, what do you think about the whole thing?
I think it's definitely the latter of the points you just suggested. I think it really is going to be a case of, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink type of thing. Like, you can tell them about these open banking solutions that exist, but you can't make them implement it. You almost need to make them realize that they need to implement it. And I think the idea that understanding, like the article says, I think it's 28% of businesses claim to not have not yet implemented open banking due to a lack of understanding. I think understanding should really be a top priority, because I understand sort of from an organization's point of view, if you're having payment problems, the first thing you want to do is resolve those payment problems. But if by just directing a few of those resources into understanding open banking, not only are you solving those payment problems, or payments processing issues, I should say, but you're also then setting yourself up for the future to not only just avoid those sort of problems again, but also opening yourself up to a lot of new opportunities. Because it's as we sort of say with a lot of the technologies we discuss, open banking is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And what organizations are quickly going to realize is that if they don't implement it and don't sort of take it seriously, then they're just going to shoot themselves in the foot, essentially. Like you say, customer loyalty is so easily lost, and it's really hard to gain. And all it takes is sort of one bad experience for a customer to be like, well, that's it. I'm not coming back here again. So in terms of is more education needed, or what needs to be done next? I think organizations just need to wake up and realize that if they don't implement this, then they are at risk of losing consumers and at risk of just falling behind in sort of the digital demands of the world. And that's just something that is, well, with survival of the fittest. That is not the fittest. So I think it's especially given all the problems that are happening right now, open banking seems like such a logical solution that could help out so many organizations. It'd be really good to see more of them take it seriously and look to implement it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've just really hit the nail on the head there, and I really love everything that you've said, and yes, new technology can be scary, but there's just so many misunderstandings about a lot of things that I think it is down to the individual to actually, put the effort in and do their research. Obviously, I think there's an element of, support from the actual companies offering these things, or from other boards and other kind of decision makers in the world. But at the end of the day, you have to sit down and kind of realize, this is my business. I need to do better. So being, too scared to implement technology just isn't going to cut it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But anyway, that does bring us to the end of our discussion today. Thank you so much, Francis, for talking about fintech with me. If you want to hear any more of anything we've spoken about today, head on over to thefintechtimes.com, where there are plenty new news and insights over there. But very quickly, again, for the 200th time, let's do what I learned this week. So each week we learn so much new stuff, being on the Fintech Times editorial team, that we thought it'd be fun to share that with our listeners. So Francis, what have you learned this week?
So sort of staying in the region of Latin America, I learned that this week WorldPay is expanding its services in Colombia, having supported merchants in Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico already. WorldPay is now bringing its key solutions to Colombia, including its e-commerce payments technology, multi-layered fraud protection, 3D secure and secure customer authentication, authorization, clearing and settlement, dispute management, and data insights. I just thought it was cool to see, to give LATAM some love.
Lovely stuff. Love the LATAM love here. And what I learned this week is that Tuesday is the new Friday. Tuesday has overtaken Friday as the UK's busiest weekday for spending, as new working patterns change when people go out to eat and shop. And that's from a new insight from Lloyds Banking Group. And I just thought that was really funny, because I thought Thursday was the new Friday. And I probably say that every single Thursday. But no, Tuesday is the new Friday. So
it's funny. I heard that it was Wednesday.
When
every
is
day except Monday.
Every day is, and then Monday's the new Sunday or something. I don't know.
Surely not.
But yeah, I just thought that was fun. But anyway, Francis, thank you so much again for joining me on this 200th episode of the Fintech Times News and Viewed podcast. It's quite it's quite humbling to think not all of us have been doing it for 200
monumental
times,
is what it is.
But 200 episodes. I think I joined on episode 5. I'd have to check, but yeah, that's it. It's crazy, but hopefully we'll do 200 more. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next one.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to the Fintech Times News and Views podcast. Don't miss next week's episode and continue the conversation using hashtag TFT News and Views and follow us at the Fintech Times.